Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be looking at my first ever piece of ON30 scale rolling stock. ON30 scale is a little bit tricky to explain, but basically it is O scale, but a representation of narrow gauge at O scale. So it doesn't actually run on O gauge track, it runs on HO or double O gauge track. And even I'm struggling to get my head around this in terms of what to expect. For instance, today's product is this. It is a Derrick car, which is essentially a rail-mounted crane powered by a steam donkey, but it is ON30 scale, so HO track. HO track, I thought, well, it's going to be sort of this sort of size. It's going to come in a standard Bachmann US rolling stock box, about this big. Well, that's not the case at all. This thing arrived, and this is the size of the box. It's a gigantic box. Not had it out of this box yet, but I'm expecting to be quite surprised by the size of this thing. And yet, it was not that expensive. The RRP for this is $64.99, and I paid $39.99 from Train World, which works out at £32. So not at all expensive. No idea what to expect from this. Like I say, it is my first ever ON30 model, but I'm really curious to see what this is like. I want to see how big it is. I still haven't gotten my head around this product yet. So come with me, join me. I hope you enjoy this review. Let's get started. Alright, so a Derrick car. What a fine name for a crane. Anyway, this is a Bachmann product, as you can see. Yeah, Bachmann Spectrum. The box itself, I have to say, is extremely light. So I will laugh if I open this up and it is just a tiny little crane in the middle of the box. I don't think so though, I suspect not. Anyway, let me show you the end of the box. This is a very simple one, item number 26905. It is an ON30 Derrick car, and this is White Pass and Yukon, and I'll talk about what that is later on. But very plain box, so I've really been kept in the dark as to what's involved with this product. So let's open it up and let's have my first look. I think the top's just going to come off. Let's have a go. Man, it's quite sandproof, this box. Oh no, I got it. All right then, so foam covering, good packaging then. Let's lift it up and let's do the reveal. Here we go. Oh wow, gosh, yeah, that's massive. What a huge thing. Yeah, so again, HO scale. Well, it's ON30 scale, but it runs on HO track. Gives you an idea of how insane that is. It's going to struggle, I can tell you that straight away. It's going to struggle on my track. I'm going to have to move all the low flying scenery and whatnot. Anyway, let's have a better look at this thing. Wow, I tell you what, it looks relatively complex, doesn't it? Let's pull this out. Have to be quite careful with this. Yeah, so it is pretty lightweight, I have to say. Not a lot to this in terms of the construction. It does seem to be largely plastic, so quite lightweight, but then again, pretty darn detailed. There's a lot going on here, from the planking on the deck to the crane itself, which looks relatively complex, to the interior of the cab where the steam donkey engine is, and I'll tell you about those in just a second. The crane itself does not appear to be an operating one. It seems to be static. In fact, the pulleys seem to be glued in place. So I guess that explains why this is a bit cheaper. They haven't gone to all the trouble of creating an actual working crane mechanism. But that's fair enough. That means it can be more detailed, and it certainly does look quite detailed. So we'll take a much closer look at this and some of its details in just a second. But first of all, a brief background on the Derrick cars and these very interesting steam cranes. Here we have a 19th century Derrick car, which in real life was powered by a steam donkey. A steam donkey engine is a steam-powered winch, essentially. They're also called logging engines at times, which you've probably heard of, and these machines were widely used for hauling logs around and other similar tasks. Here though, the donkey is clearly hitched up to a crane, which would allow it to move logs or even wrecked trains that might be obstructing the train tracks. The White Pass and Yukon is a narrow gauge railroad linking Skagway Port in Alaska to Whitehorse in Canada. The railway opened in 1900 and was 107 miles long. To date, the railroad still exists and it is open under preservation. So there it is, up close and personal for you, the ON30 Derrick crane car from Bachmann. And I really like this thing. I think it's an intriguing piece, isn't it? Really nicely put together, and it's got some interesting details as well. I suppose the fact that this doesn't have a fully operating crane is a simplification, which I guess would have allowed this to have been produced a bit more cheaply than it otherwise would. But I think that's perfectly fair enough. I don't know too many people that actually operate these cranes, but if you are someone who likes to operate your steam cranes and whatnot, do bear in mind that's not really possible with this one. Having said that, there's a little bit more articulation to it than I thought there was. You can turn the crane a little bit. It's not much, but I suppose you could sort of pose it a bit if you wanted to, so that's something, isn't it? Apart from that though, it's not an operating crane. Let's have a look at some of the detail then. Let's look at the decoration, because there's quite a lot to see here. So you've got the print work on the side of the sole bar, which is painted red, an interesting colour scheme. Yep, the printing is absolutely fine, no issue with that. I particularly like the font of this white pass print, which has been put onto the wood panelling. Yeah, that looks absolutely fine. The finish is good as well, yeah, really good quality finish. And my favourite aspect of the decoration is the wood planking effect on the main deck. Yeah, they've done a really good job of this. It almost looks weathered in a way, but they've really got that worn wood look just right, I think, which is very good indeed. In terms of construction, yeah, this is very lightweight. It is basically all plastic with the exception of the wheels and some of the details. Pretty sure the chassis and all of the bodywork is just made of plastic, and that does show through in the weight. The whole thing only weighs 91 grams, which is very, very little, isn't it? So again, you're not paying for a lot of materials here, but as we're going to see, there's quite a bit of complexity here. So first major feature is this massive brake wheel. I assume it's going to be a brake wheel, which stretches the whole height of the wagon. That's a wire piece, so fairly good quality, although obviously very fragile, so you want to watch that. The model has got lots of wire handrails fitted to it actually, and they're all very, very straight, no visible glue or anything like that. Very high build quality on this thing. The underframe has some detail as well. You've got the struts which support the frame, and really quite a lot of detail down underneath, which is great. You've got the bogie detail, which is fair enough, all moulded detail, but nothing wrong with that. And of course, metal wheels as well, which is very good quality. You've got the crane itself, which doesn't look ultra convincing because some of the pulleys are glued in place, and then the hook, for instance, it's obvious that there's no weight to that because the string is clearly not under tension. So yeah, not dreadfully convincing when you start looking at it, but in terms of the actual moulded detail of the crane piece itself, there's quite a bit to see, which is great. And then you've got all of the winches and such which are inside the cab. Again, no real string or lines around these, it's all just a moulded effect, but you've got all of the handles and such and the gears. It looks really realistic. And even deeper inside the cab, you've got the steam donkey itself. You can see the boiler of it there. Really quite a bit of detail on there too, considering how hidden it is. And then that's especially true of the chimney, or the part of the donkey that protrudes above the cab. Quite a lot of detail on there as well, and it is part of the same piece. It really does protrude through the roof, which is nice and realistic. And then on the roof you've got these little decks, these walkways, which seem to be separately fitted parts. And then you've also got glazed windows on the side and also on the door. So you know what, to say that this cost me £32, to say that a small 00 scale open wagon can cost you more than this cost me these days, I am very, very pleased with it. I mean, it's massive. It's a huge piece of rolling stock. I'll show you it in comparison with an HO loco in just a second. It's a huge piece of kit. Even at the RRP, it's well worth it, I think. Yeah, it could be a little better quality in the materials. I would rather it had, say, a die-cast chassis or something. The fact that it doesn't makes it obviously very light, but at the moment there are no real ill effects, there's no warping, and the build quality besides that is very high. So, impressed. Let's get it down onto the track, let's see how free rolling it is, and let's also couple it up to a loco. Right, so the Derrick car is down onto the track, and this is going to be my test setup. As a loco, I've got my weird Bachmann Christmas engine, which I know is slightly inappropriate because it's virtually summer now, But the alternative is that utterly horrific Bradford Exchange Queen loco, and I've got more respect for this crane than to do that. Anyway, in terms of how free rolling this is, not very. Now, it's not like egregious or anything, and it's free enough. But yeah, on the Gordon's Hill rolling test, it did not fare very well. I had to coax it forward. Maybe it's just because it doesn't weigh anything. It just never managed to get any momentum up. But then again, your ON30 locos tend to be big chunky things, so hopefully there won't be any trouble hauling this thing. Anyway, before we do the coupling, I thought I would bring in a HO scale loco for a size comparison. So I've managed to couple it up. Yeah, there you have it. It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? And in fact, this looks really odd as well. It's like someone's built a little model train and brought it to a narrow gauge railway. In a way, that would be awesome. I mean, a person would be about that tall next to it, something like that. So yeah, it is like a little model or something. Some interesting modelling could be done with that, but not today. No, I'm going to use an ON30 loco. So let's reposition the crane. Let's have it about there, and let's back up the ON30 loco and see what they look like together. If the crane interferes with the tender, I might have to switch the direction of the crane, but we'll see. Oh no, oh actually, no, that looks really good. I like the way that looks. Yeah, the way that crane hangs over the tender, that's very, very pleasing. And it's like a sort of odd Christmas train, isn't it? I'm not sure what the backstory for this would be. Maybe Santa's stuck in bed again or something and the crane's been called out. I don't know, but this is quite tall. I would have said the crane is taller than the loco. So I've lifted up the bookcase, I've removed the passenger footbridge. Let's get these started and we'll see whether this odd little train can actually make it around the layout. Little concerned about this, but off they go. Alright, so again, to be clear, this is not what ON30 stuff is designed to do. It's not designed for HO layouts. You're supposed to be building special ON30 layouts to run this stuff on. The curves, the scenery, not intended for this sort of thing, but as you can see, I seem to be getting away with this alright for the time being, until we go to the bookcase. Let's have a look. Oh crikey, loco should be okay. I've had to lift it up especially far. Yeah, got away with that, I think. Alright. So, what a fun item this is. It's such a shame that I don't have a specialised ON30 layout to run this on, because I could seriously see myself collecting this stuff. It's like, it's got the size and the detail of O scale, but you don't need all of the space of O scale, because clearly this stuff can handle super tight curves. So actually, with some scenery to match it, this ON30 stuff would be really cool, in my opinion. And this seems to be working absolutely fine. I mean, that's a lot to ask for such a large piece of rolling stock designed for a different scale. And the fact that, you know, I just took a bridge out, lifted my bookcase up, and it just works, that is absolutely awesome. So ON30, what a lot of fun. This crane itself is great. For the money I paid for it, it is one of the best value models of the year, I would say. Very, very inexpensive, yet incredibly detailed as well, and really good quality. So I've had a lot of fun with this today. I hope you have as well. Let's be really mean to it and put it across some points. See if it derails. Fingers crossed not. Okay, so this is pretty mean, but then again, the wheelbase of the crane is not particularly remarkable. I've got coaches with bogies that are longer than it, so I'm hoping it will be okay, but we never know. So let's test. Reverse we go. Not too quick. Yeah, it looks good. Let's go back for the other set. Oh yeah. So solid as a rock, and unlike the actual Bachmann HO crane that's designed for this kind of track, the boom and the hook and everything else, it's not fouling up on other rolling stock, it's not catching the scenery, it stays in position. It actually works a lot better even on an HO layout. Let's have some ratings for this thing then, and overall really impressed with this thing. It's a lot bigger and a lot more detailed than I expected it to be. The level of detail for me is a 4-star. Now, it's not mind-blowing in its level of detail. It doesn't have the fully operating crane, it doesn't have any lights or opening doors or anything, but really for what I paid, the level of detail is great. The decoration I thought was really good. The level of detail that was there, particularly on that steam donkey, it didn't really need all that detail really because it's kind of buried inside the model, but it was there. Clearly this was designed by someone passionate about these things, and that really shows through. It's great to see. The performance is a 4-star. Again, no major problems with the performance on this. Nice smooth runner, it stays on the track, doesn't catch on things even on a 00 layout. Fine on points. Not very free rolling though, so it does lose 1 star for that. The quality is 4-star. Again, the build quality is really good. All the little details applied perfectly, no visible glue or anything like that. The quality of the decoration is great as well, good finish. In some places the paintwork looks a little bit messy, I think some of my close-ups might have caught that. And of course there is the issue of the plastic construction. It's a very, very light piece of rolling stock. Seems to be just about stable, but a little bit more weight would make me feel a lot better about it. But again, no major problem with that. Good 4-star on quality. Value for money though, even at the RRP, I think this is a great price. And of course, most retailers do discount a little bit from the RRP. Train World, for instance, reduced this down to $39.99, which is only a hair over £30. Now, I think when you consider what you get here, what complexity is in this model, that's wonderful. So it's an easy 5-star on value. So overall then, that's a really good score of 8.61 out of 10 and a grade of B. Let's put this into the logbook where it is 2nd place above the Walther's Jordan spreader and below the Rapido ferry van. Yeah, very well deserved 2nd place. I'm really enjoying this model. Well folks, that will just about do it for this review. I really hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, this is a great little model. And if this is something you might be interested in, then this is a great place to start because it's inexpensive, it gives you a good taste of what sort of detail and quality you can get in ON30, and of course it won't cost you very much either. Yeah, I think this is really cool, and I'd love to try some other stuff in this range, and I particularly like maintenance of the WAY vehicles. So if you've got any other suggestions on similar models that you think I might like, whether they are HO or ON30, please do pop them in the comments down below, and I will definitely have a look at some of those. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon for another review. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.